Hey folks, welcome back to Queerosphere, the podcast.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for coming back after our winter hiatus. Thanks for supporting us through that, by the way. Winter is treacherous.
Dangerous.
It's dangerous. Don't go outside, kids.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
Yeah.
Or
Not really.
well, whatever.
Just avoided it altogether.
But we're back, and that's, I think, the most important part is that we're back, we're here, we're queer, and we're ready for more podcasting.
Here we go.
Yeah, so...
As always, I'm Cry.
And I'm Lou.
And today we're going to be talking about our newsletter, about volume 2 of our newsletter.
Of our Queerosphere Quarterly on our Blasphemous blog that comes out. And we do this very special project. But first, I have a question for you, Cry.
Okay.
And I think this really gets to the heart of things.
Okay.
Why is representation important to you?
Oh, God. Because representation is important not only to me, but in general. Because feeling alone and isolated is detrimental to a person's mental health.
Yes.
But when you see yourself on a screen or in a book or on a magazine cover, when you see people who are like you and you understand that you're not the only one who goes through the things that you go through, you feel, for one, validated, but also like there's hope. Like if other people can live with it, you can also live with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
For real.
That community makes you stronger, and representation gives us community.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting, because I would say I would agree, like representation sort of is important to me for those same reasons as a queer person, as somebody who deals with like other things. And then just as a person generally, like positively, like I think like the media and Hollywood, we can't escape it anymore these days, so much so that it's like ingrained in who we are as we relate to characters. And so in those ways, like there are ways that we grow up as humans or grow into roles as humans that are sort of laid out in representation that we see on TV and movies and music and books. And yeah, so it's just now I think such a part of like media is such a part of life that like you can't help but relate and want that representation for yourself and for your community.
Yeah. I mean, even before we like had media, like there were schools for people, like there were schools for the blind, for as an example, like a place for people who were blind to be with other people who were blind, to know that they could survive without being able to see, or communities like the deaf community. Like those communities existed before we had media and stuff.
And queer community too, right?
Yeah,
like,
and queer communities too. And so, exactly. And so like it was important before we had media just to be able to have that community. And now with media, it makes it so much easier to find it.
Yeah. Well, bringing us back to the newsletter and to our Queerosphere Quarterly Zine, whatever we're really calling it, the idea behind it is representation.
Yeah.
That is what you came to me 2 years ago about.
Yeah, that's the driving force behind it. My goal with the whole thing was just to give people a palatable review of the representation that is in the media that we see.
Yeah.
Like not based on how the story is or how like overall the journey for the
like the character, or
yeah,
the arc or the plot or anything that like goes into the story making itself.
Yeah, or the show. I just wanted to like look at how they represented queer people and whether or not they did it well, whether or not they gave us something that was like a good example, or whether or not they were gay bashing.
Yeah.
Essentially. And I wanted to, as a queer person, give a guide for other queer people. Like, this is the kind of representation. Like, here are shows with queer characters in them. This is how they did.
Yeah.
From my perspective. From my singular perspective. But, like...
Well, our double perspective, yes. But
yeah.
You do have more than one perspective. We do check each other.
That's true. We do check each other. We'd love to have more perspectives.
When we write the newsletter, we we do it in a way that like really considers a lot of things. Like we have our own rating system, which is really fun to do.
Yeah.
And we also have like different like variants like of media. Like it's not just like movies and TV and things you're seeing and sitting down and seeing, but like you're reading or you're listening to music. These are also things that are considered like within our scope. And I just think that like we consider so much. I think like we consider a lot like going into everything. And I have fun writing them. Like it's a lot of fun considering the ones that I get, because I do movies and music, and those are two things that like even on a regular day that I'm passionate about. So I have a lot of fun doing it. A lot of fun like figuring out like, oh, like what era am I coming from? What year am I doing? What, like especially with like the movies, like what, you know, like because in some sense I know what representation is going to come up if I've seen the movie or heard of the movie, but I think that the picking is fun too. And
Yeah. And like a show can be so good, and or a movie or anything can be so good, and then they can have terrible representation for queer people.
That's true.
And so I wanted to you know, bring attention to the fact that hey, this would be 10 times better if we had good queer representation in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And it's like, I think we said this on one of our last episodes about something. We said something along the lines of like, we wish that there was better storytelling in Hollywood because there is the same story coming up and up. There's a lot of like remakes and stuff. And if we put more queer people in Hollywood, we get these different stories that are possibly better. I'm going to say better.
Yeah.
Representation than what we have been getting in the past. Because one thing, just like a side note that I sort of noticed when doing this is that like some things, if we take it from the past, like just like an era movie, like a 90s, 80s, 70s, whatever, if we take like a movie that's not sort of contemporary, a lot of the times I notice that like it's only nuanced because I've made it nuanced, not necessarily because it was nuanced at the time. At the time, you have it for what it is
right
at the time. And I think like now we enter these nuanced perspectives into getting something from the representation. I noticed that changes too. And so that was another like interesting journey to go on while writing these two, especially with one of the ones that I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
So
we like to do a multiple different like media types, like you said earlier, because like I don't like to watch movies that much.
Yeah.
But you love to watch movies.
Yeah.
I'm more of like a reader or like a TV show person, and like I'm also not that good at music, and you're great at music.
Yeah. And like how we divvy it up is really nice. I think it, like I said, it like lends to my sort of passion points, because I don't necessarily read a lot of books per se, but I'll read a lot of like different types of other things.
Yeah.
So I think also what goes with that is like we've chosen like plays and poems, and there's just like, I think, I mean not yet, but there are like other things that we have in our wheelhouse to go over.
Yeah. So this what I'm really trying to say is check out the Blasphemy blog, because you might see something on there that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, and that you might love. It might be something new.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so this volume 2 of Queerosphere Quarterly, one of the first movies I wanted to talk about was called Edge of 17, and this is the 1998 movie. There is another movie titled Edge of 17 that came out with Haley Steinfeld in it in like 2017. I don't think it's gay. I don't think it's gay at all, but I'm not sure because I haven't seen it.
Okay, gotcha.
But this is like this 1998, and it has a male lead character rather than the female lead in the new one. I just wanted to make that distinction because because if you Google it, sometimes the other one will pop up. But this movie, let me tell you, it's a relic of the past in the way that it holds like a history of queer people within it, in the picturesque sort of 90s teen drama special type of way. It's sort of like Love, Simon and the representation at the time, right? It's giving us that like, you should really like accept and love queer people because it's the good thing to do. That's what we're all doing now. But it has this other like 90s sort of like raunchy club vibe too.
Oh.
There's a lot of like sex in it too, but I think the reason I like it so much is for the difference in the time period specifically. And I think that's why I like to talk so much about like picking things from a different time. But this shows a place where queer people would gather, seek solace and community, and just showed us what it looked like in the 90s. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's just so cool. It's just a cool
Absolutely.
picture. Another part of the movie that was really interesting to see and like witness in a movie, like it was I think only gay people would pick this up. There was a weird part in the movie, or several parts in the movie, where there's this like air of secrecy, gendering relationships. Okay, so it's like an air of secrecy. So it's like a everybody knows the secret and everybody's talking about the secret, but they act like it's a secret.
But
they act like it's a secret. So shh.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So here's what I wrote, because I'm just gonna have to read it verbatim because this is just how it goes, right? Okay. So it says, so it's like this. Oh, there goes Bernard and Trish, but Trish is obviously not Trish in the sense that you're supposed to think of a cis woman as Trish, but it's in fact Teddy, a gay man. So like they know that, but they when they say is like, oh, there goes this person and this person, and you're supposed to almost think like, oh, you're supposed to wonder about gender. You're just supposed to wonder about what gender their person is with. Or it goes like this. Oh, there's Bernard and Trish. And clearly Bernard is with Trish, a cis woman, but she thought he was the husband, but no, he's just gay and he's with some other guy. Like, you know, like it's just this weird way that I think people used to do things in the past that we just don't do anymore. And that is, it's so hard to describe, but it was funny to me when I was watching it because it confused me. I was like, we don't do this anymore. We don't like subvert gender. I think these days really try to uncover how it harms us, right, rather than subvert it to the point of like actually harming a couple, whether they are holding that queerness a secret or not. It was strange. Just I've never seen it in a movie before. I've never really experienced it in life. It was just this like weird sort of takeaway from the movie that I got, which is why I like doing the podcast about it, because I was like, there's no way I could have written about that in any sort of coherent way. Like it was very weird. So
gotcha.
My last point about the movie before I'll move on is that Lea DeLaria is in the movie, and Lea DeLaria is a renowned Hollywood dyke. She star of Orange is the New Black, has a huge comedy career beyond her movie career though. So like she's like she does like stand-up comedy.
Wait,
stuff.
who does she play in Orange is the New Black?
What's her name in Orange is the New Black?
Oh, okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Also, fun fact.
I don't know exactly who this is.
Yeah, fun fact though, because you're gonna die. Apparently, she is the originator of the U-Haul lesbian joke. What does a lesbian bring on a second date? A U-Haul. Apparently, she's the originator of that joke. According to legend has it, Wikipedia has it.
Hilarious.
That she originated that joke.
Legendary.
I'm telling you, like this movie, it may not be like the greatest queer representation or like the greatest movie ever, but I swear to God, it's a watch.
Yeah, it's like a thinker. It's a philosophical experience.
It's maybe.
That's what I'm getting from this.
It's very interesting. There also, I will say though, that severe like warnings to the movie. I think that like you need like a warning on sexual assault in this movie. Like if you don't want to watch a movie that has sexual assault in it, then don't watch this movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start with a TV one that I did because I felt like this was really important to do, and I look forward to doing it in the future because it was kind of fun. I did one for Grey's Anatomy, and since Grey's Anatomy is not a TV show about queer people, it doesn't focus on queer people. It's a TV show about doctors, but it has queer characters. So I just picked one of their queer characters to go off of for Grey's Anatomy, which was really fun because you get to see how because there is a big difference between how a queer program treats their queer characters right off the gate from how just like a regular program treats a queer character. And so I did Dr. Torres. I did Dr. Calliope Torres. And she's a very interesting character because for starters she was their first like main character who was a queer character.
Right.
She was considered part of the core cast for a long time, but she didn't actually start till season 3. So she was one of the first additions to the cast. She came along at the same time that Addison Shepherd and Mark Sloan came along, which created two separate straight love triangles. And then Calliope was part of a separate but attached, like, love triangle.
Gotcha.
And so, like, it was interesting to see the representation, especially that old of representation, because this was, like, the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Right, the show's been around a long time.
It's been around for quite a while. That, you know, it started airing it, this was happening. And so, at first, she was brought in as a character to add an additional romantic partner for a man.
Interesting.
And they had a really on and off, hot and cold relationship. And it doesn't make, I can tell you that watching it straight out doesn't make any sense, because this was back in the day before binge watching, before you just had everything access to everything.
Right, it was on cable TV at night. You had to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, and if you missed an episode, then too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to catch the rerun when they do like a marathon.
Yeah.
And so it's paced in a way that, like, there's supposed to be a week between when you watch the next episode. So, like, it doesn't, like, connect very well, but that's how TV was back then, because, like, they didn't have to necessarily make it all streamlined, because time passes.
Yeah.
So, like, your brain gets all foggy. So one of the very interesting things about it is that she's very much like a bipolar character in the beginning. Like that hot and cold type of character that we see. And then that translates into her being bi later in the series.
Interesting.
So everything about her, they were like, oh, she's bipolar. Well, if she's bipolar, she might as well be bisexual. And they don't...
Just like attributing that bi label to her.
Yeah,
that like hot sticker.
Yeah, that hot and cold sort of personality. Like, oh yeah, if there's gonna be a bi character, it's gonna be that one.
Yeah.
But so she is, you know, the first like queer representation that we see, but we don't see it for like a couple of seasons. Like, she discovers her sexuality. She discovers that she's a bi woman later in the series after meeting Dr. Robinson.
Okay.
Who she eventually gets married to and then divorces. And there's a lot of crazy shit that happens in Grey's Anatomy. But it's all very much... It's all very much like that early 2000s perceived of like bi people being like selfish or loose or
hot and cold,
or, you know, hot and cold. So it's very much all brought into like not very good representation for bi people.
Yeah.
Because it's literally that it's like boiled down to, I mean, Dr. Torres has a lot of complexities, but not necessarily in her sexuality.
Yeah.
Like they didn't write her. Like, eventually she started to have more complicated storylines, but her bi-ness was still, like, a hot and cold feature of her.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she was with this woman and it broke her heart, so now, and she falls in love immediately. She falls in love that fast.
Yeah.
Because that's another, like, something that's attributed to, like...
women loving women relationships, honestly.
Yeah, women loving women relationships. That it's just like, oh my god, we're ride or die immediately. And so... like, eventually, I mean, the show is still going, and she was on the show for 18 seasons, I think. Eventually, they do address some of those things. Like, they do eventually talk about, like, she has a conversation with her wife about how her wife thinks that she's a bad, like, lesbian because she's also attracted to men. Like, it bothers her.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. When that episode came out and people like on Tumblr were talking about it.
Yeah. It was all that's how you know that it's really dramatic at times when everyone was talking about it on Tumblr. But so they do kind of address it in later seasons as, you know, the actors start to be able to produce episodes and direct them because they've gained so much power and influence from it. So like... one of the things that just I really wanted to tackle for it, that made me really want to do this one, is just that the character existed for so long through so many different time periods that her representation, like the strength of it, changes, but the continuity basically stays the same in this, in the fact that everything about her is bi, which means everything about her is
like on one pole or the other.
Yeah, one pole or the other at all times.
Yeah. Interesting.
She is a really fun character, though.
Yeah, and the person who plays her is banging.
Absolutely smoking. Smoking hot. You know, and she's also a person of color.
Yeah.
And so to have a bi person of color on television at that time was a huge deal.
Yeah, and I believe to this day they are non-binary, go by they, them, and they are on a new series. And just like that, the Sex and the City reboot.
Oh.
They play Shay, a non-binary adult, like, lover interest of Miranda on the show.
Really?
Yeah. You should really check it out, maybe for this one day, because I mean, I've seen it, and we could say a thing or two about the representation, because of that actor who played playing Callie Torres, I feel like the translation of the queerness into this role and the queerness throughout the life just kind of like opened up this role to be a little bit more like actor controlled.
It definitely did. And as they, especially in Grey's Anatomy, like all of the like core cast, eventually they became producers and like they direct episodes, and so like they had a lot more say, and like they were all opening up themselves to authenticity. And you have to give props to the actress Sarah Ramirez.
Sarah Ramirez. Thank you. I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah, like a lot of the progress that, you know, like the acknowledgement of, the phobias that bi people face, or like the freedom for them to have children, or
right.
Those sorts of representation and those sorts of things that we got to see that were really positive from the show. We need to attribute that to Sarah Ramirez,
right?
Who played the character,
yeah,
for sure. And like, good for her for pushing it and allowing us to see the sort of growth of that representation.
Yeah. So you'll have to check out And Just Like That and see. I want to hear your thoughts on what we think that their performance is like in that show.
I will have to do that.
Yeah. So another like thing that I do on the newsletter is music besides movies. And
I really liked our playlist last time.
The cat one, you like the cat one?
Yeah, Hairballs and Catfights, Ode to My Bastard Babies is what we called it. And there's just a lot of bangers.
Not only bangers, but also like there's some show tunes. There's it's a very cat attitude heavy playlist.
Absolutely.
For sure. I have like tons of fun creating that playlist. I think that's actually the easier part. I think the harder part is coming up with the featured artist. And then I've been adding the music video just because I think music videos like are a different subset almost of thing to like be watching when you're watching music artists.
Yeah, music videos are a different artistry. There are artists who create really good music videos and who like put work into them, like Lady Gaga, and then there are artists who just do whatever.
Yeah, no, I like Kim Petras and Coconuts, or not, what was it, Coconuts?
Justin Bieber, I'm looking at you.
Justin Bieber.
Like, what the fuck?
God. LOL. Anyways, so our featured artist this time was Sam Smith. And Sam Smith just came out with a new song. Actually, it's called Gimme. And it's like a very sexy, like...
They're very into sexy right now.
Yeah. It was literally... Okay, so I can 100% confess that Sam Smith, I was not, like sold on, like, their musicianship. I... love this sexy hoe phase though. I'm so on board with it. Like Gimme is a hit, Unholy with Kim Petras is a hit, and like I think that it's just cool that they're young. Their career is like pretty new pop stardom though. It's like fitting them really well.
Yeah, like
a glove, like a sexy leather elbow length glove.
Yeah, and they used to have very like soft rock power ballads.
Yeah.
And it's moved into very like club vibes pop hits.
Yeah.
But like their vocal range is so unique.
Yes.
I really love it.
Yeah. And like I think that I'm with this matching with the vocals and the song type, I think are just really my vibe right now. Like I'm really enjoying that. They can come out with 100 more songs and I'd be down to listen to every single one. And I just listened to Gimme on Instagram the other day, or not Instagram, on YouTube the other day, because I saw it on Instagram that they had just released the song with 2 other artists, and the 2 other artists I believe are queer as well. I don't remember who they are, but it's so sexy, just so, and everybody in the fucking music video is just like sweaty and dancing and humping each other, and some people are making out. It's just like, I don't know why I'm so into that right now, but that's like it's giving me good vibes.
That's the vibe. Do you want to go down and like read everything that's on the playlist?
I don't have it pulled up right now. Do you?
Oh, I do.
Go for it.
So we have Everybody Wants to Be a Cat
Yes.
by the Aristocats, obviously. Burkas, Cour de Pirate.
Yeah, so it's a French song by a queer artist that Haley showed me, and it is incroyable.
Incroyable. Alrighty. Nails, Hair, Hips, Heels by Todrick Hall at Absolute Bop.
Smash it.
That's a banger for dancing in the club.
For cats dancing in clubs.
Yeah. Break My Soul by Beyonce, also a banger. Everybody knows. Stray Cat Strut by Stray Cats. This Hill by Rina Sawamura. Rina Sawamura. That's the only one on the playlist that I added. I usually add at least one song.
Yeah.
Usually only one. By the way, if you haven't heard Rina Sawamura, check her out. She's British Japanese, I believe.
Yeah.
And just her songs are so fun.
Yeah, I've had fun listening to them.
They're fun and they're different, and like everything sounds different, but everything sounds like it goes together on her album.
That's cool.
I really love it. Music for a Sushi Restaurant, Harry Styles. Good Life, Kalani and G-Eazy. Vogue, Madonna. Bustopher Jones from the Cats musical, the 1983 version. Loverboy, Adam Lambert. We Run This, Missy Elliott. Secrets, Mary Lambert. Why Should I Worry, Billy Idol. Good to Be Alive. Purvis?
Oh, Paris. Yeah, it's supposed to be like an A.
It's an upside down A,
yeah.
Which is a V. Okay, gotcha. Show It All by Kim Petras.
I think
Blow It All by Kim Petras.
I think the one that really gets to me the most is either Stray Cat Strut. I mean, that one's just like really good. Everyone Who Wants to Be a Cat, I think, is too good too. What's the other one? Show me the list again. Oh, Why Should I Worry? Do you know what movie that's from?
No.
Oliver and Company. It's a movie about a little cat who's a stray on the streets in New York, and he meets a bunch of stray dogs and a homeless man, and he finds a home.
Oh yeah.
And the first like opening song in the show is like Why Should I Worry? And it's this dog singing to this cat like, you ain't gotta worry in the world. We got free hot dogs on the street, baby.
That's funny.
Yeah, I really love that song. If you watch that movie, I'll cry because it's so good. It's like a childhood fan fave.
Yeah, I've never seen Oliver and Company, but I know of its existence.
It's so cute.
I'm an animation buff, but there's something about that off Disney, like early's, like late 90s,
yeah.
Grungy cartoon vibe that like I wasn't interested in a lot of those.
Well, and it is Billy Idol singing the entire album.
Right.
Like it's not just the one song. I think he like plays the character, so he
does them all.
So he sings, yeah. Like
nice.
It's pretty intense, but also pretty awesome.
Yeah. Although I think I know what it is. I watched All Dogs Go to Heaven when I was a kid, and that put me off of it because although I love that movie, and as a child, it like really did some things to me.
Honestly, I think that movie was a little too scary. It should have been like PG-13 a little bit.
The honest to God truth is that thinking about the fact that maybe potentially a dog could go to hell really messed me up as a child.
God, it's the Christmas Carol that really sold that home for me.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll mention about music, though, getting back to it, is our For My Friends music video by King Princess. And King Princess is an incredible artist who's like up and coming, I would say. Not really, but in the queer community, but like up and coming, I think, just like
like pop culture.
Like pop culturally, yeah.
Yeah, sort of like how Remember Fun?
Yeah.
How like they had been around for 16 years and then they won Best New Album.
Yeah.
They won Best New Artist that one year, right. When their music video for what is that song?
Some Nights?
We Were Young.
Oh, We Were Young. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, anyways, so this music video is just a really cute tribute music video to your friends. I think everyone with like mental health issues or just like who is a dramatic bitch can agree that like having supportive friends through literally anything is like number one. And so I love that King Princess did a tribute video to their two best friends. I think it's so romantic. Like it's such a romantic gesture for a musician to have done, and that's all. And other than King Princess can get it, and I hope that she's my hall pass.
Beautiful.
That's all.
So I'm gonna move on to my book. This time I did a series, a book series that consists of 3 books, and I did the Simon Snow series because for one, I love it. It's like it's literally Harry Potter but gay.
Okay.
But what I like about the first book is that the first book of this series is the last book of Harry Potter.
Okay.
So like we basically hear like what happened as they were growing up in like flashbacks, but like we enter their last year at their magical wizarding school.
I see.
And then subsequently defeat the Voldemort like character.
Okay.
Which is called the Insidious Humdrum.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Insidious Humdrum.
Yeah, the Insidious Humdrum.
I like to say that.
And I don't want to spoil anything, like any plot points because it's not about that. But really what gets me about this book series is because we step in at the very end and it's about what happens. And the first one is about the events of how they defeat the Insidious Humdrum, basically. But the other 2 books are about what happens after.
Okay.
What happens after these kids who have been literally going through a war their entire childhood? Like, what do they do next? And it's about addressing your traumas and learning how to heal from them.
Okay.
In adulthood. And I thought that it's a really important story, especially for queer people.
Okay.
The 2 main characters are the chosen one, Simon Snow, who is labeled the worst chosen one to ever be chosen.
Thanks. The chosen one.
He can't actually do magic.
Sucks.
He can't actually do magic. He just has a lot of magic inside of him. And so like when he tries to do it, he has too much of it. So it always turns into like an explosion basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, you're selling me on the book. I think that's like where I'm going.
And he has a best friend who's the Malfoy character.
Okay.
He doesn't have a best friend. He's his roommate. His roommate is the Malfoy
Like the
character.
Bully, yeah.
Who's also a vampire. Who's also a vampire wizard.
That's funny.
Who's secretly in love with him and has been since they were 12 years old. Because they have been roommates since they were 12 years old.
Freaking cute and weird, but cute.
In the book, each chapter is in the perspective of the so we see the story happening from the perspective of every character.
Okay.
Each different chapter is the perspective. We bounce back and forth through their perspectives.
Okay.
And all 3 books do that. And so in the second book, they're having an existential crisis and they go to America. Because for reasons. And then the third book, they're back home. Something weird and crazy is happening. But like it's really just about them trying to like their road trip, everything is about them trying to figure out who they are now that they are not the people who are defeating the world evil.
Yeah.
Like, what is their life net like
Right.
now that thing that they have been dealing with since they were 12 years old is no longer around?
Right.
And it's just a very beautiful, heartwarming, touching story about how to, as queer people, learn how to love yourself and accepting being queer, but also how to move forward with your traumas in a way that is healing to you.
That's cool.
And I think that as a person who's from the Harry Potter generation,
Right.
like that was the very important missing piece of Harry Potter.
Yeah. Aside from like a lot of missing pieces, but yeah.
Like for us as kids who grew up with Harry Potter, like it didn't show us, like that's one of the things that really stuck is that, that people really resonated, like traumatized kids finding their found family
Yeah.
and then fighting for what they want. but not how to heal from that.
Yeah.
Not how to heal from a traumatic childhood.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's an interesting perspective to take.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's just a beautiful queer love story about soulmates
That's cute.
who are much more mature than they should be because they've literally had to save the world. And what do they do now?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I find that's very important. And I love it a lot, and it's also really funny. I just think that it's really funny. It's written by, I believe, an American person, by an American woman.
Okay.
But it's British, but the characters themselves are British.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like Harry Potter. Cool.
Yeah. The first one is called Carry On, the second one is called Wayward Son, and the third one is called Any Way the Wind Blows.
Okay.
And they're by Rainbow Rowell.
Right. I've heard that author.
And I don't know, just give it a read. I really do love that book. I've read it probably 400 times.
That's cool. Yeah. I will definitely maybe check it out. Not definitely. I can't promise any definite book reading.
So the other things that we have on there, just in case anyone's doing, I just want to give a full lineup of the season. So for our movie list, we had Anything's Possible, Fire Island, The Edge of 17, and But I'm a Cheerleader.
Yep.
So for the book list, I did the Simon Snow series. For the TV list, we did Grey's Anatomy, RuPaul's All-Stars 7, Owl House, and The Bastard Son of the Devil himself. And then I already read you our music, but the playlist title once again is Hairballs and Catfights, Ode to My Bastard Babies.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope that you guys can go to our queerosphere.net website and click on the blog tab where our Blasphemy blog is, and you can find the Queerosphere, oh my God.
The Queerosphere Quarterly.
And you can find the alliteration there.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where you can find all of those, and they're like little graphics, and they like present well on the website. So you'll want to go on to the website. We don't post them on social media. We don't post them anywhere. You have to traffic our website.
Yeah. Also, we make the layouts ourselves, and they're very good. Thank you.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking about this and doing this, and so we're really proud of the product that we've been creating and hope to create more in our upcoming volumes. And even I think in some amount of time we hope to get them printed for people to
have and to hold
physically in their actual hands.
Forever.
So, yeah. Well, thank you for listening to our episode today. That is going to be it for us.
Thank you.
You can find us on social media, Descent to the Queerosphere, or online, queerosphere.net.
Woo.
Thank you guys for listening.
Bye-bye.